Welcome to Buffalo Game Day Recap. I'm Thad Brown along with AJ Feldman after the Bills fall 24-18 to the Bengals. AJ, by the way, I know they don't do scoregami for back-to-back games, but I got to imagine this is the first time ever an NFL team has had two consecutive games finish 24-18. I know that, Bills fans are not interested in unique score features, but it is something that I thought of middle of the fourth quarter. I'm like, wow, if the Bills will score again, we're going to have like back-to-back kind of sort of scoregami. And I got a kick out of that. Again, it might only be me, but this is my show and our show, so I get to bring it up to start here.
Here, I can do something really quick now. I'm on the website right now. There's been 7 games in NFL history to finish 24-18, and 2 of them were the Bills in the last 2 weeks. There you go.
Yeah, so I would say pretty safe to say that was back-to-back agami, if that's what we're going to call it. So very unusual. And I think at the end of the day, very disappointing for Bills fans. Look, this is what I see from the Bills now through 9 games, because one of the things I like to say is when you get to Halloween, then you kind of start knowing things about the NFL, and maybe you could argue that, that point was previously, obviously Halloween was, last Tuesday. But I think right now we know what the Bills are. Right now, the Bills are a defense that is missing so many bodies. It's going to be very hard for them to compete, even though they fought their tail off in this game. They made plays in this game. We'll get to that in a little while. And then on offense, I think they're a team that does not have enough skill guys to be elite. They're good. I mean, the quarterback's unreal. Again, did a little bit of the I'm going to put the offense on my shoulders all night long thing tonight. Stephon Diggs, still really good. Dalton Kincaid emerging. I know he had 10 catches tonight. I think 10 catches kind of overrates his impact, and obviously he had the fumble. But beyond that, they just don't have enough guys that can win. And I think where you saw it come up was with Josh Allen dropping back, scanning the field, not finding anyone, taking off and running, throwing the ball away. There are not enough guys open in this offense to where they can still call it the fastball. They can still call it something that is one of the best in the league, even if statistically it probably still is, quotes, one of the best in the league.
Yeah, I mean, this game was really the Dolphins game, but in reverse. I mean, both teams come out firing on offense. The Bengals go down the field and score. The Bills go down the field and score. The Bengals match with another touchdown. You feel like you're getting into the shootout. And then when things slowed down, it really slowed down for the Bills. The Bengals were able to pick their spots. They get the touchdown late, in the second quarter. Micah Hyde blitzes, comes in when he shouldn't have. Drew Sample leaks out in the backfield. And that's 21 points. And the Bills never get to that point at all. And now you look at the Bills, where they've beaten the Raiders, the Commanders, the Giants, the Buccaneers, and a win against the Dolphins. And for as much as Bills fans like to rave about, oh, the Dolphins are this, the Dolphins are that, they can't beat a good team, the Bills haven't been able to beat good teams except for the Dolphins. And the offense just isn't good enough to carry themselves against this banged up defense like you talk about. Going forward, we've talked about it before on this podcast. What is the, recipe for success for this offense? It's probably going to have to be scoring 30 points. And it doesn't seem like the Bills offense has enough at this point, and probably going forward in the future, to sustain that level of success to go on a long run here.
They did go more up-tempo tonight. I don't think it was as much as last Thursday, but, I think a part of that was they weren't staying on the field, and as much as I think some of us in the media and maybe some fans want to say, hurry up is the answer. The Bills kind of poo-pooed that all week. I mean, Stephon Diggs said that, going fast or slow isn't the thing that matters. Executing is the thing that matters. And they didn't do enough of that tonight to where they could continue to go hurry up. I think going forward, I want to see them continue to go at a faster pace. I think, again, it's better for them. I think they can be comfortable going that quick, but it's not changing who they are as an offense. It's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmys and the Joes. And the Bills players, I don't think there's anybody who's bad. Khalil Shakir made a couple plays tonight. Dawson Knox, when he's healthy, can make plays. But Gabe Davis had 0 catches tonight. Deontay Hardy was a non-factor. James Cook had another, game, cost me some money, where he was not really a factor. They don't have enough things beyond Diggs, and to a little lesser extent, Dalton Kincaid, they can depend on. And even Kincaid, and I'll have to go back and watch it in the film, and I want to get to him in a little bit, but even like I said, Kincaid's 10 catches to me, don't blow anything away here. They're just not good enough on offense, because the pieces aren't there. And I'll tell you what, I thought the offensive line, again, at least pass protection wise, wasn't bad. I mean, I thought they gave Josh Allen time. He just has nowhere to throw the ball.
You talk about Kincaid not blowing you away with these 10 catches, but at least at the very least, it's now becoming consistent. Kincaid's a guy who
Agreed.
can get open. It's a guy who can find spots. He can turn the ball upfield. He can, occasionally make plays after catching the ball if he's not getting flipped over his head and fumbling the ball in the red zone. So Kincaid's something you have. Diggs is something you have. But other than that, it's not much. And you mentioned the up-tempo thing, how the Bills kind of poo-pooed it. From what I was seeing, press conferences, things like that, there was lesser so of that tonight. It was more of, they asked Josh Allen why didn't it go as much tempo. He's just like, oh, that wasn't the game plan. Sean McDermott was asked why they didn't go up tempo. It found success later on. He's like, I don't really have an answer for you. I'll get back to you. So it was certainly, I would not say that the Bills poo-pooed, up tempo is the answer. You guys are crazy. It wasn't any of that kind of talk. It really seemed like, the Bills realized that this up tempo thing could be something going forward, and they just didn't go to it. Can you build the entire offense out of that? Probably not, but it is probably something they want to work in more frequently and earlier on when they're not just have their backs against the wall.
I don't think it's about building the offense around it. I think it's the idea that if they go faster, it's going to make the guys who haven't been good suddenly better. Maybe a little bit. I think you can change scheme and work around the margins a little, but this isn't an offense that's scoring 20 or 25 and you want to get them to 30. This is an offense that's having trouble getting more than 10 before we get to garbage time. I mean, the last 5 weeks, let's throw out the Tampa game and obviously there's some danger there, but Tampa today gave up 470 and 5 to CJ Bleep and Stroud, so the Tampa defense might be terrible enough that I don't know if I want to look at that as any sort of litmus test of where the Bills are at. In these other 4 games, the Bills have as many touchdowns down 2 scores in the fourth quarter as they do the entire rest of the game. So when the only thing you can do effectively is score when the other teams in prevent are playing soft, then I'm not going to tell you that going hurry up or adjusting a formation or using different personnel is going to make a difference. I don't believe it. I don't think they have the guys to make this work. They can be a little bit better. And again, Dalton Kincaid, his emergence can help them a little bit. But and I know what you're saying with Kincaid finding open space, and that's fair. But Kincaid had 10 catches, and they still had 10 points midway through the fourth quarter, which is exactly what it looked like against New England, against Jacksonville, and against the Giants. So even Dalton Kincaid becoming consistent, productive, is not changing what's happening on the scoreboard. Yes, if he doesn't fumble, it makes a difference. But at any point in this game, did you feel like the Bills had enough offense to where they had a chance to win beyond, wow, that was a ridiculous, silly comeback and good for the Bills stealing it, a la kind of what the Jets did to the Giants last week, granted in a whole different way?
No, it really doesn't. And, the Bills have been, restrictive on Josh Allen all season long, limiting him rushing the football, things like that. It might be glass break time early, just let him run, let him do things, let him go outside the pocket, let him leap over players to a certain extent, because it's one of a few tricks you have in your bag. And at this point, you kind of got to use them all.
I agree with that, and I was thinking that late in the game that, they're kind of emptying the kitchen sink here to stay in this game. And they might have to go with that as a means to keep this team somewhat, functional as a contender, real quick on the Dalton Kincaid fumble. I want to hit on that. I did talk to him after the game. He was like, we asked, do you think you needed to jump there? He said, probably not, which was the obvious answer. He said, I've got to be better. I've got to, hold on to the ball. I mean, nothing earth shattering, but obviously this is a rookie who knows he, made a play that was very costly in this game and doesn't want to do it again. I kind of laughed a little bit. He makes the play and he fumbles, and I can almost see him, walking back, and Josh Allen looks at him like, what happened? He's like, I learned it by watching you. Okay. Which is, the famous commercial drugs from the 90s and 80s. But look, I know I'm kind of like knocking the Kincaid performance. The guy is the only person other than Stephon Diggs who is stepping up and doing anything. And yeah, the fumble hurt in this game, but I guess I don't want to kill him too much for the fumble. He's trying to make a play. No. Yeah, it was wrong, and it got his team beat, but whatever.
He hit the over again today, which is good for me.
That's true. Yeah, you made some money off him today. I was betting James Cook today. Very bad idea. Kincaid, over was a good number. And I mean, geez, he was 40 this week. I mean, I wonder what the number is. If he doesn't get to 50, I mean, that becomes a must bet until he's at least over 50 for the next few weeks.
Yeah, it's certainly trending in that way, which also begs the question, why couldn't they use him this way earlier in the season? But let's get to the defense, Dad.
Yeah. All right. So defensively, right now, Spit and Bailingware have more resources than the Bills do. They were minus both of their starting linebackers for most of this game. Terrell Bernard goes out with a concussion. Christian Benford revealed, and so did Sean McDermott for that matter, that he had a hamstring injury, didn't play much of the second half. So Dane Jackson was also in and out. At some point, it was Rasul Douglas and Josh Norman, two guys that were not even in Buffalo 2 weeks ago, who were the starting corners. And theoretically, depending on, how bad those injuries are, could be the starting corners again next week. Probably not. Benford felt like he could have come back into the game. But bottom line with the defense, when you consider Von Miller still isn't 100%, they're missing both playmaking linebackers. The corners were in and out. Micah Hyde was in and out of the game. Jordan Poyer is playing linebacker, to cover up for different spots that are wanting. Dorian Williams got time again in this game. I thought the defense played okay, based relative to all of that. I mean, the offense did virtually nothing between the opening touchdown and the desperation late in the fourth quarter touchdown. The defense at least did get the Bengals off the field on fourth down in a spot where since he converts, the game might be over. The defense did prevent the touchdown in the fourth quarter in a spot where if since he converts, the game is assuredly over. So although there weren't guys left, they at least were making plays. And I got to give Sean McDermott credit for keeping that going and for enough production happening on defense that there was a reason to be interested in this game at the end.
Yeah, it did seem early, like I mentioned, that it was going to be one of these shootouts, and it was just another game where the Bills offense had too many answers for the defense, a team that the Bills can't figure out, a new Kansas City Chiefs, but eventually the defense found its groove. The one thing you'll say is that they have not been able to force turnovers lately. And like you mentioned, they're very depleted. Once again, no turnovers. It's been since the Miami game where they have an interception. And Sean McDermott, granted, I don't think he wants to praise too much, love on his team after a loss, but he was definitely more negative than positive on his defense, talking about not generating a pass rush, not getting to Joe Burrow, not forcing turnovers. So the defense definitely did, a good job with what they were dealt with, and they were dealt with a lot. They're going to be dealt with a lot all season long. But another performance where the defense gave the team a chance to win, like you mentioned, which is, I guess, is all you can ask from a really explosive offense going up against with the Bengals.
Pass rush is a disappointment. They don't have injuries there other than Von Miller. Leonard Floyd has been, semi-invisible the last month or so. AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, they had good starts. I could have told you that, some of that seems circumstantial. I mean, I think both guys are improved, but to be able to be guys that you can depend on, they're not there yet. Ed Oliver, I didn't think he was very impactful. I'm not going to say a single bad word about Ed Oliver because he's been like an Avenger for the first 7 weeks of the year. So if that guy has a week off, he's earned it. Not that obviously you want to excuse it. But yeah, they're not getting enough out of that group. And when you have, I talked about it before the game. They had three things, everybody. Von Miller, was a guy that I looked at because they have so much going on in the back end with positions being changed and guys hurt. And then it just exacerbated in this game. So yeah, defensive line hasn't been good enough, in a spot where I'll go back to kind of back up a little bit. Yes, there are injuries in the back seven. Every team in the NFL has injuries. So when that happens, other parts of the team have to step up. And you know what? The D-line isn't, and the offense isn't so far.
Yeah, and when you're playing all this bend but don't break defense, essentially, all it takes is a penalty, a roughing the passer penalty. Micah Hyde, starts to blitz when he thinks the tight end fullback isn't going out for a route. He breaks out free. That's a touchdown. You're playing with such a small margin of error where just one thing can hurt you so dearly. And, eventually it's going to happen against a team like the Bengals.
Speaking of calls, let's talk about a couple of decisions / penalties here. First, the intentional grounding that cost the Bills a shot at a long field goal end of the first half. I get it a little bit in that letter of the law. There was probably no receiver around. I'm on the field, so I'm not hearing what NBC referee expert was there to explain it. But on the field, I thought that was kind of a ticky-tack, sticking it to the Bills letter of the law kind of call.
Ticky-tack would be putting it lightly, because you also have to consider letter of the law there's this caveat in ground, or, intentional grounding that no one really thinks about. The quarterback has to be under immediate duress, essentially, is what the rule book says. And that wasn't the case. So even if he was, throwing it 50 yards over the nearest receiver's head, letter of the law, I would not interpret whatever, kind of a pass rush that was as, immediate loss of yardage because of pressure from the defense is the exact wordage. And I would not call that, Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, they were pretty mystified by that one as well. So I think the guys in, stripes were the only ones who really thought that was a penalty there.
Did you look that one up, or was that from the NBC expert rules broadcast guy, whatever?
I looked that one up, but that was also one that we had on Sports School back in 2020, COVID days that I remembered.
RochesterFirst.com, everybody. You can go watch that when we were trying to kill time with anything. Good. All right, good call. Did you tweet that, by the way? I'm going to have to retweet that tomorrow.
I did tweet that, yeah. But it's been tweeted by other people as well. But
but if it's not retweeted by me, it doesn't count. That's what
exactly.
I'm saying. Right? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, we agree there's a bad call. On the challenge, talked to Trent Sherfield about it afterward. He thought it was a catch. It certainly sounded like he went over and campaigned for a challenge. I mean, look, I think that's as simple as he caught the ball right next to the Bills sideline, gets up. The Bills sideline thought it was a catch, and then Sherfield's right there. So if Sean McDermott walks over to the wide receiver and says, "Do you think it was a catch?" Sherfield for sure answered yes, and then therefore is a challenge. Looking at the replays in the stadium jumbotron here, I didn't think that was a call that's going to get overturned. Is it possible his hand was underneath it? Maybe. But it seemed to me like there was enough ball contacting ground that at the very least, as stands, was going to be the call there.
Yeah, especially when, it might have hit his hand, his pinky or whatever, when it bounces up with such a, ferocity that it really looks like it, came in off the ground for the most part. Tough to get that overturned, especially, in a key spot down the stretch where you're going to need your timeouts. In the long run, it didn't actually matter that one single timeout, but you'd like to have that in your chest, and the Bills did not have that going forward.
Well, I mean, it might have, because maybe not, but, Joe Mixon gets that first down. The game isn't over then. You can still force Cincinnati to run some plays, and then you're going to, probably force a guy to make a field goal. If Evan McPherson, who's not the most dependable, blows what would have been like a 45-yarder, maybe you are in the game. I did think it was a bad use of a challenge, even if Trent Sherfield says it's a catch. 2nd and 1 with 5.5 to go as opposed to 2nd and 10. I mean, you're getting 9 yards and risking a timeout, which is 40 seconds in the game. So I thought it was a bad use of a challenge. You better be 100% right, and the Bills just haven't often enough been 100% right.
Yeah, I don't. If Mixon would have stayed in bounds at the end, and maybe he would have if they had that timeout left.
Well, then it's dead. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
So either way.
I think I'm missing one here. That was the extent. Well, one thing I do want to say, and as much as I want to laud the Bills defense for making plays in this game, the Bengals, getting ready for this, I watched the last couple games they play. They have a very interesting habit of walking down the field early, scoring a bunch of touchdowns, and then getting dumb. And after the Bills interception, that was quintessential 2023 Cincinnati Bengals football, where we have 2nd and 1 at the 23 and somehow turn that into a punt, at the Bills 23. So they did help out a little bit with some ridiculous stuff. They burned all their timeouts in the second half with 10 minutes to go. They were not super clean. The Bengals are a better team than the Bills, and I don't think there's a debate there. But the Bengals aren't this, I think you brought it up before. Are they the new Chiefs? No, because I don't know if they're quite smart enough. They're really talented, and I like what they do defensively, coaching-wise. But offensively, they mystify me. They spent this whole game, taking the play clock down to the very end for whatever reason, and it finally bit them a couple times. So I don't come out of this game a huge fan of the Bengals. I did pick them to make the Super Bowl this year. I still think that'd probably still be my pick now, but they did plenty in this game to help the Bills out.
No, and really in the AFC at this point, there really is no juggernaut. I mean, the Chiefs are winning games, but they're not looking great doing it. Dolphins, the Bengals, it might be the Ravens at this point. They're looking good on all cylinders, but they haven't turned that into postseason success in the past. So at this point, there's really no top dog in the AFC that's blowing away a conference, which if we want to get big picture now, the Bills are currently 9th in the AFC with a 5-4 record.
Right. And that's certainly a good way to crystallize how disappointing the start has been for the Bills. This first half now, it's not even a start anymore. But I'm not overly concerned about the Bills' current position. To me, the concern now is looking down the road and the magic number is still probably 10 wins. How does Buffalo get there? You have games against Kansas City, Dallas, and Philly where the Bills will probably again be underdogs. So you got to at least win one of those games against one of the three, arguably 3 or 4 or 5 best teams in the NFL to, well, I don't know, actually doing the math now. I guess you don't have to win those games. You can just win all the rest of the games and get there. But you still have to play the Jets, who you haven't beat. You still have to play the Dolphins again, who I know they don't beat anybody good, but, are much better than the Giants and Patriots of the world. You still got to play the Chargers again. And when the Chargers don't do dumb things to themselves, can be a pain in the neck. So, the road is still there for the Bills to get to 10 wins, but the margin of error, I guess, right now is 0, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have to beat the Broncos on Monday night at home. And then, in a vacuum, you have to beat a team like the Jets at home. But the Jets, as we all know, have had their number in the past where I don't even know if I consider that a gimme.
It's not a gimme. I mean, it's a game the Bills should win. Gentle emphasis on should, but
I mean, they should win.
Right.
Are they going to? Who knows? But they should win it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, all right, let's go through the schedule quick then here. Off the top of my head, Denver, Jets, Chargers end of the year, Miami, and one more with New England, right? That's the 5 wins the Bills will need to get to 10.
Yeah, essentially.
The easiest way.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think the way you want to look at it is, they got the Broncos and the Jets coming up. You get those 2, you're at 7. And then they've got the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. And you split those, go 3-3, and that gets you your 10. So
the bottom line is, to go back to big picture, the road to 10 is still reasonable. Probably very reasonable. And as you pointed out, there is not a juggernaut that, the Bills aren't better or as good as the Bengals and the Chiefs. But can they beat those 2 teams on one day? Sure they can, because I don't look at either of those 2 teams as unbeatable. So the season is not dead, even if, the Bills continue to not show an ability to reach that next level to where you want to take them seriously as a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, and I mean, if the Bills keep at this point, I don't know if you have to catch the Dolphins to win the division, but I would find it really tough unless they find some second gear that they win 3 road playoff games in a row. That's going to be a really tough task.
That's a fair point too. All right. Anything else from the game here?
Do we want to talk a little Damar Hamlin here?
Yeah, that's where I'm going next. Just to bring it up after the game, Damar was walking around the field. It's on my social media and just about every social media in the world from someone who covers the Bills. So Thad Brown 7 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Seemed like a pretty emotional moment for him. When we were done with interviews, we walked back out in the field to begin recording some of our on-camera stuff, and he was just standing there right at the spot where he collapsed last year, kind of seemingly taking it all in, walked around near midfield for a while, got down on a knee, certainly emotional, thoughtful moments. He was, when he walked off the field, I was over by the tunnel, and there were a couple of staffers who talked to him, said, good luck, that kind of thing. Glad you're okay. This moment on the Damar Hamlin story, obviously, there's good he wants to do and things that he wants to promote and parts of this world that he's trying to change. But in terms of the collapse and the cardiac arrest and all that, I feel like we've come to the end. It started here in Cincinnati and tonight it ended with Damar Hamlin healthy, walking, not playing football, but, for football reasons, not health reasons. And going forward, he's going to be okay. Whether he plays in the NFL for a long time or not, he's going to be, just fine as a human being.
Yeah, and he did retweet somebody's, video of this. It seemed like a Cincinnati reporter. He retweeted a quote, "Tonight was everything for me. Y'all don't know the half of it. Trust me." So, you could infer that from what we saw on the field, but certainly a quite a weekend for Damar. He also last night, or I guess Saturday night at this point, he met with some of the medical staff from UC. 10 of them, had dinner with them, called them his heroes, created scholarships in their honor to underprivileged youth in Cincinnati. So certainly a full circle moment this week. Wraps up from what we thought could have been one of, if not the scariest things we would ever see on a football field. And long and short of it, came out with a happy ending.
That was probably the only happy ending for the Bills tonight, though, unfortunately. 24-18 loss. Season, still, like we said, margin for error small, but still possibilities going forward. They got to fix the offense. They got to find somebody healthy to play defense, and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks for listening and watching the Buffalo Game Day Recap. Remember, you can find it every single week after every single Bills game. RochesterFirst.com, on YouTube, wherever you find your podcasts. For AJ Feldman, I'm Thad Brown. We'll see you next week after the Broncos game back in Orchard Park.